Welcome to What the Fun podcast with Kimmy,
Kisa, and Renee.
Glad you can join us as we explore all aspects of entertainment and current events with industry professionals, friends, and us. Welcome. All right, friends, here we are, episode 13 of season 2. Here we are. We're just rolling. We're
Wait, this is episode 14.
You know, what day okay, so we're going through another day of confusion here because, you know, not too long ago, last week, someone forgot what day of the week it was. And sat on a Zoom call for minutes and not realizing that it wasn't Friday because here's the thing, friends. We tend to...
You're talking about me? I was making fun of you.
Yeah, that was you.
You were the one that did that.
Because here's the thing, friends. We record our shows on a Friday. And so we tend to meet up Friday mornings to, you know, do our side conversations. And so why don't we have Renee tell the story of what happened last week?
I went to bed thinking the next day was Friday. I was like, I have to go to bed early. I'm going to have to do this thing at 9 a.m. That is way too early. If I want to be coherent, I have to do my work and step into it. And I did. I went to bed early. I woke up, did all the things I had to do, logged on, sat here for a good 10 minutes before I realized that it was only Thursday. I was not anywhere near Friday. And I was like, yeah. I'm wrong. As I sat by myself in a Zoom room, wondering when people were going to join in.
And then Renee sends us a text message and is like, oh my gosh, I've been sitting in Zoom for 10 minutes. I totally thought it was Friday. And I'm like, yeah, girl, I'm at work right now. What's wrong with you?
Oh my goodness.
It's hard to keep track of days. I'm sorry. And dates. I thought you were making fun of yourself because in the first episode of the season, on episode 13, you were like, we cut that out.
I have slipped. Yes, I have. No. We kept it because I kept saying we're on episode 4. And then Kisa was like, no, we're on episode 5.
Yes, that happened a long time ago. But then when we came back to do episode 13, I think the same thing happened. You were like, okay, everybody, we're back with, episode 12, I think it was. And we were like, no, it's 13. But the editing god of Kisa cut that out. I just brought it back right now. Sorry.
Hey, you know what? We just got to stay true to ourselves. This is how we are. We're totally organic. So yeah, we'll have slip ups. It's okay. That's what makes our show really cool, is that we keep it real.
So what are we talking about? We're talking about how your dog has a diaper.
Yeah. And you know what? Having my dog on a diaper, especially if you have indoor dogs and they're indoors majority of the time while you're at work, it's a godsend. You know, it helps prevent, accidents, which my dog tends to do quite often. Well, in the last couple of months or so. He had a doggy pee pad, but then ever since he went over to the other house and met up with the other dog started peeing everywhere. And so now he's copying everything. And then you bring him home and now he starts peeing in every little corner, marking his spot. So he ditched the pad and just went straight to the carpet. So he's wearing a diaper.
Yeah, you guys ditched the pad too and went straight to a diaper.
Oh, gotta love these pooches. Oh, by the way, did you guys get any of those knit goods from our sponsor?
Cat Knit Evergeek.
Yeah. Yes, I'm gonna definitely take advantage of that discount because my pooch needs a holiday wear.
Yes.
Yeah, it gets cold.
And friends, you can log on to our website if you want to take advantage of those promo deals. Just log on to www.rikikiproductions.com and then select the promos tab. And there you'll find information on the latest deals that we have going on using our WtFun promo code. So if you need something for your pet, definitely check out that website from our friends at Cat Knit Ever Geek.
Oh my God, that's true. We have a website and it looks so good. Kimmy, great job on that.
Thank
Loved
you.
It.
Yes.
It looks so good. That's exciting, guys. Now you all can share our website or log on to our website, ask us questions, anything like that, things. Or if you have any ideas of what you want us to be talking about or discussing, like this is a great form of communication and looks really good. So go check it out.
And you can load this on your phone too. So, that's the best part is that it looks really good on the phone, on a mobile device. Yeah. And if you want to learn more about Rikiki Productions, you can log on to our website and learn more about Rikiki and what our endeavors are, our plans, and then WtFun podcast. You can get the latest episodes, all of our episodes, everything, or know more about us as hosts by reading our bios. So check out the site.
Yes. Oh, fun. Okay, well, this has been a fun morning, and we have a fun guest today.
Yes. Oh, yes, we do. Joining us today is a hilarious stand-up comedian who has toured all over and performed on numerous comedy festivals with his on-a-whim comical stylings and infectious catchphrase. He has become a favorite on other podcast shows and also has performed improv. In addition, he's also an actor and has performed on various TV shows and national commercials on big networks. So let's welcome to our show, funny man, Mikey McKernan.
Yay!
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
We're excited too. I mean, Mikey and I go way back. So I had my sketch comedy and improv troupe called the Fornicators of Comedy. No, the improv troupe was a very huge cast. It was an LA cast and an OC cast, and Mikey was there for the beginning of the OC cast and wrote it all the way through. And so it was fun. It was great. I had a great time working with you. There were a lot of things that you used to do that cracked me up. One thing that I'll always remember was Mikey scooting across the stage. Like he would sit with his legs applesauce, crisscross applesauce, and then he would like scoot around the stage, slide around.
I miss doing that. I still have never done that in my stand-up, and I think about it a lot. I'm like, man, I love doing that. That was I ruined a lot of pants doing it, but that's probably why I stopped doing it.
Yeah. So, I mean, now that from improv, you're doing stand-up comedy. I mean, how much has improv impacted your career as a stand-up comedian?
Well, I'd say it's, it was the rocket ship at first. It was the spark to get going. If you wanted to pursue comedy outside of, like acting and stuff, they always told you to go to improv. And I took a bunch of improv classes and I always tried to find any kind of improv work. And the most fun I've ever had was being in a sketch and improv troupe and performing, weekly. And improv is so important just for any kind of, entertainer aspect. So you can, think on the fly and stuff like that. And it's, it's very valuable for the world of stand-up comedy when you need to make funny right then and there.
Now, with, your early career in stand-up comedy, who were your early influences?
Well, my number one guy to even get into show business is Jim Carrey. He's still to this day, ever since I was 9 years old, it's been my dream to make Jim Carrey laugh. That is literally one of my goals in my life. And to get into stand-up though, this guy, Bill Hicks, he's definitely a big influencer. I got into him when I was a teenager and I was really into my anti-establishment stage. And I was like, whoa, this guy is a comedian. He's telling the truth, but it's funny. So I really, really like that. But it's mostly Jim Carrey. He's the numero.
Speaking of Jim Carrey, is he even around? Because I don't hear his name anymore.
No, he is.
Oh, yeah, playing Joe Biden right now on
Yeah, on
SNL. It is.
Yeah, what rock are you living under?
I've been hiding underneath some rock because I haven't been up to date with Saturday Night Live. I mean, the last time I watched SNL, I mean, it goes back to what's his name? Oh
Will
gosh, he
Ferrell.
always yes. Thank you, Will Ferrell and Sherry
Oh, that's a long
O'Terry.
time ago.
I know. It's been so long. Okay, well that's
Yeah.
good. He's playing Joe Biden. That's good.
So, what direct influence did he have on your comedy?
It's definitely physical. Like I love being physical as much as I possibly can, and that always would crack me up. And then of course, like making really faces, like funny faces and stuff like that. Like he's always talked about how he like grew up in front of a mirror, and I've always been obsessed with entertaining myself in front of a mirror as well. But coming from I'm the youngest of 6. Actually, technically now I'm the youngest of 7, and I just always been in the position of trying to entertain all my siblings and stuff like that. And then growing up, I played ice hockey and being on a hockey team, and then being in the position of entertaining all my teammates and stuff like that. So I just always been kind of like forefront of center of attention. So, and Jim kind of seems like he demands a lot of attention.
And then working in an improv group with Kimmy, what were the highlights of that? Like how did working sketch comedy really like affect how you started to see your comedy after that, especially now that you've established that you did that before you went on and did your first gig as a stand-up comic?
It has a lot to do with probably writing like just like a skit, and then trying to find like the character and then the conflict in it, and then just having the freedom to explore that and have as much fun as you possibly can. Because it's like with sketches, you can go kind of far out, but you still have like like a path, like
a footprint. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like super fun for me doing that, and I've never done that before, and that was just kind of like I felt like this is my calling, and growing up loving Jim Carrey.
So what I hear is that it was more of like it provided structure. It gave you a guideline. And so then you were able to then apply that to your own comedy and understand like you kind of have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end with a joke as well when you're trying to tell stories.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because what was fun is the balance of improv and sketch. So when there was times where it's like, okay, we have like a orderly fashion, then improv would just be like, it's all out the window, So we get to kind of like, it's like a yin yang. It was like a balance of being like restricted compared to like branching out and going off the walls and stuff like that. And that's so much fun because especially when you're in your beginning, of your stages of trying to figure out your sense of humor and your creativity and just your talent of performing, that was like the best. And it was so much fun of, we would rehearse once a week, work on sketches, and we do a show every Sunday. Wasn't Sundays, but it was just at least we do a show every week. And that was just so much fun having, a lot of shows to have people come and see and stuff like that. And, having live audiences to perform in front of was so much fun. And
it was a playground, it was a playground for the creative minds. And, I mean, to see Mikey evolve and grow, I've seen him do so many physical comedy routines on our stage, and to use our stage as a platform to test out, these characters, it was an opportunity for him to just play. So it was a playground, and to see every character grow out of that, I think totally shaped who you are today as a comedian.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about that relationship with the audience? In improv, many times you're drawing from the audience, and then you see what works and what doesn't work. And then that's when the honk comes in right at the end of that one set. Like, so how did that help you start building that relationship as you started shifting into being a stand-up comic?
Well, it's, the number one rule about comedy shows is that if it's sketch, improv, or stand-up, is the show's about the audience, So if they're there, you got to entertain them. And, I did a little theater in high school, and it's live audience, like heartbeats. They're, it's so much fun to feel their energy and all that kind of stuff. And that's really like the biggest thrill of doing any kind of performing is getting the live audience's reaction. And, the beginning stages of doing, sketch comedy and improv in front of it, that builds you confidence to go to the art form of stand-up comedy, which is a little more scarier because stand-up is just you, yourself, by yourself, up against a brick wall, like just, I got it in front of the whole audience. And so you learn to connect with them. And that's all it is. It's just, once you connect with the audience, they think it's hilarious, and then they love it. And I miss it so much.
And so that experience shifting into comedy, what was that like? How were the beginnings of your stand-up comedy career?
To be honest, I was so scared to do it. I first tried it when I was 18. And I did a contest called Who's King of the Water Cooler at my local improv comedy club. And I took third place, and then I got free classes, and then I did the showcase. And then after the showcase, they're kind of like other comics were like, "Oh, come do comedy here, come do comedy here." But I'm like, I'm 18 years old. I still live at home. Like the only adversity I see is like my dad telling me to take the trash out. And so I didn't have the courage to do it. And then the kind of stuff that I was coming up with, it was extremely childish, and like it wasn't like like cool or adult, like like when you see the stand-up comedy world, you think it's like, oh, it's a nightclub and it's whatever kind of taboos they all talk about, and I just didn't feel like I fit in. And then I read Steve Martin's book Born Standing Up, and he started off with just really bad like magic tricks. He would just go do these horrible magic tricks. And that gave me so much confidence. Like, yeah, you know what? Who cares? Like, if I make fart noises on stage, just go up and do it. It's like no big deal. And then 22 years old, I finally got the courage to do my first open mic and never looked back.
Never looked back.
12 years.
I mean, that takes like real courage, to get up and do that and have an open mic. I mean, I think that's the thing with like that I always admire about people who can do improv in comedy is like just thinking that quickly on your feet is so impressive to me, because I have to like process it. I have to analyze it. I'm like, does this make sense? You know what I mean? That's why I do stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm good at. But, like I always really admire people who can really put themselves out there and, make people laugh. I think that's like probably one of the hardest things to do, because, people are tough. And it's like, what's funny to me could not be funny to the person that I'm there with. So, to kind of generalize things overall is like a really good, it's a skill to have that not everybody can do. So
it's true. I mean, you think about like drama. Drama is so easy because a lot of people, they can go to those places, but comedy is 90% failure. Like it takes so much to, for it to work. And so people are so afraid of, like, oh, there's so much, failure to comedy that's why they're so intimidated by it. But you just have to learn like, I'm okay with, tanking, and I'm okay with bombing. And once you get okay with that, you're almost invincible and stuff like that. And that's what's, comedy is so much harder too than drama. You always hear that because, like drama, like everybody can relate to, like, oh, I'm sad or, angry or depressed, where comedy is like, hey, this is funny, right? Like, I thought this was ironic.
Yeah.
And some people will just be like, no, I didn't connect to that. And then you're like, oh, okay, egg on my face. But, having the courage and the confidence to be like, it's no big deal. I take the licks. And then that actually reassures people. They like to laugh at like, oh man, look at this guy just, be horrible.
Yeah. It sounds like to me, it's always been about the relationship, right? That relatability to the content. And it's usually when the comic is being truthful or speaking the truth is when they get the audience, because that's where you get that connection of like, oh yeah, I see that in myself or in someone else or whatever it is. And then you automatically build that tie with the comic. And then then you go on that roller coaster together. Which I think is what you were referring to as far as like having that relationship with the audience and how they affect
Oh,
mood.
absolutely. It's almost any artist, any performer, no matter what, is the audience has got to believe you. You
Yeah.
know, and if they don't believe you, they're going to be like, "No, I don't. You know, I don't believe you." So if you go up there and you're like, "This is the truth. This is my truth." Who connects with it? And then most people do. They're gonna laugh. They're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, this is great. I like this guy. Oh, this guy reminds me of so and so. I like him." You know,
Mhm.
and it's that's the biggest, the number one thing is connecting with the audience, telling the truth. Because if they believe you, then they'll laugh at you.
So when you're up there on that stage, like what is that process like? How do you develop your material? I mean, do you just go up there and just start being funny?
I like to go up there and just be funny if I can, but I kind of come up with a few I'll have like a few things to say and then see where that goes and then I'll go from there. But whatever, jokes if they hit me or whatever I'm working on, I try my hardest just to just have a few things memorized. Like a typical open mic will be 3 minutes. And so for me, that's about like 9 jokes. So I'll have about 4 to 5 jokes prepared. And then I'll see is wherever I can go from that because it's so much fun to create on stage. I really like doing that a lot. And, some people, prefer that, but it's, it's really just get up and do it and see where it goes.
Is that where your improv skills kick into place? Is when you just get
Oh,
up
yeah.
and do it? But is there ever like a structure to it though? I mean, you mentioned that you sometimes like to go to like a coffee shop where, you will sit down and these ideas come to your head. What is your process when you do develop certain sets?
When it comes to trying to create material though, it really is what makes you laugh, what's funny to you,
Mhm.
and then of course if the audience is gonna relate to it. But
Yeah.
I like jokes. I've always got into it for trying to tell jokes, and that's a harder path because stand up comedy, it's been around longer than my lifetime. So it's almost some people don't like jokes because it's we've heard it before. We've heard these type of jokes before. We just want to hear your voice, your point of view about things. And that's what
Mhm.
the most successful comedians eventually become is you're like we know who they are, we know their voice, we can just hear them talk about their day or talk about what it's in the news and stuff like that, and that's kind of like eventually the goal. But I've kind of created an act for myself.
Mhm. And that's what it is, right? I mean, like you ultimately are working towards creating or constructing that set, that magical set that'll get you the Netflix special.
Yeah.
Right? And that takes years. It's not going to be a, a one-time thing. It takes years. It takes trial and error. It takes working every day, going to different performing every day, whether if it's in different clubs or in the same club, but just like different audiences to get that structure, to start building that set and foundation. Am I correct in
Oh,
that?
100%. Yeah, they say it takes about 10 years to create your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's like, okay, because it's all with any art, find your voice and then find your audience. And the most successful artists are the ones who, they find that, it's like and that's why I always tell comedians, I'm like, Justin Bieber, he's going to perform. He was all about I'm performing for 14-year-old girls, and so it's like, once you find your audience, that's where you become so successful. But it takes so much time because there's just, you're experimenting and you're finding out who you are and what you want to talk about. And then basically it's like your sense of humor, does that connect with audiences and stuff like that? And, when you get out of your comfort zones, when you decide to go out on the road and do that kind of stuff, is this going to connect with, with people in rural areas or, metropolis areas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of brings us to touring because, how much touring have you done, and what is that life like? I know that the comedy scene it can be very what's the word? Hard on your life, like hard on you, and trying to keep consistency.
Yeah, it takes a lot of sacrifices. One of my favorite lines that I always have, and I always tell this to comedians, is don't give up your nightmares, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what going on the road. You drive 3 hours to do maybe 5 minutes for 3 people, and you might not even get $5 for it.
Oh, wow.
So that's where it's like, is it even worth it? And that's where it takes, your character. This is what type of character you have to be like, yeah, it is worth it because, I find value in the experience, or I find value of like, oh, well, next time if I meet people out there, I'll go, I'll go again and give it another shot. So it's always valuable to me.
Yeah. This is like the making of like a perfect story for Mikey. So, when he gets his Netflix special, I mean, we had him first. We had him on our show, humble beginnings.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope people be like, oh man, I saw him on WtFun podcast and now he's rich and famous.
And then we like try to call you back. Hey, Mikey, care to make a special appearance again on WtFun?
It's gonna be like, I'm too busy.
Like, I can't get my microphone video. No, that's...
Hopefully by, that time we can record in person.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Have our own studio, right, ladies?
Do you, I know with the quarantine and everything, how have you been adapting as far as your stand-up comedy? Have you been able to go out and actually perform, or is there another outlet for you?
I've done a little performing. I unfortunately have not adapted to the online performing, and that has a lot to do with my physicality and stuff like that. And I just, like, when I first saw it coming out, it just, I was not a big supporter of it and stuff like that. So when it started, like people started doing, it's all underground right now. And so when people started doing open mics and parks and stuff like that, I jumped on it. But I know I hate to say it, but I haven't, adapted to the online presence. And it's really important because no matter what kind of entertainer you are today, you got to have this, an online presence of doing, being on Instagram, being on TikTok, and having a YouTube channel and all those kind of stuffs, and stuff like that, especially when it comes to the industry. All they care about right now is numbers. So they're like, yo, if you don't have a following, we don't really care because, we can go find somebody with a big following, like we can, sell our products that way because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Like, how is social media play in your industry? Like, how important is it? But I can see it's still very important, like it is anywhere else.
Yeah, it's so important. I remember like when I was first getting into like the acting industry and stuff like that, everybody was like, they always ask like casting and producers, like, does it really matter that you have a social following? And people are like, no, not really. But now it's like, you get breakdowns and they're like, must have a social media following. Like, I give credit to, the do it yourself type of way of that it is. You know what I mean? Like it's like, yo, if you can create your own, go do it. And people have. And it's almost like you got to give them credit for, creating their own thing and, like doing their own stuff.
I think we already touched on this a little bit, but when are you really like in the zone? Like when you're performing, like what is that like feeling of like, oh yeah, like I know like I've captured the audience, I have great jokes. Like what is that experience or process like?
For me, every time I'm still nervous every time I go up. It's just because, you just think like, they're not going to like this. They're not going to like this. They're just, I don't think they're going to get this, but it's always fun to watch the audience beforehand. Like my thing is to watch the hosts go up and see how they get the room started. But I usually tell 3 jokes. And then that's usually from where it is. Like if it's going to be fun from there, then like, all right, they're into it. Let's roll, and that's when I know. But if it's like 3 jokes in and they're not, then I'm like, okay, this is going to be a little bit harder. And I'll, try more things to, like please them and stuff like that. But once it's always so fun because once you get going, time flies, time flies when you're having fun because you don't realize, when you're like killing, or it's going so well. But it's like when you're in front of the live audience too, as well, you might not realize like when you can add something on to that. And that's why, if you do like you're talking about a subject and then the audience likes that and you're like, oh, well, if you guys like that, here's this new thought I had that I never thought of. and that's always like, you ask any comedian, like, oh, I just thought of this, when you're on stage and you tell it and it gets a laugh. That's like the greatest feeling ever. And that's why it's so important to record those sets, because I can't remember them. Like I never ever can remember like stuff I do on the fly when I'm on stage. So that's why it's really important to have all your sets recorded, so you can go back and listen and be like, oh yes, that's what I said. Or you go back and was like, that's what I said? I don't know if I like that.
Yeah.
I just remember like one time I did a joke that, I was supposed to say Subway, the Subway sandwich shop, and I said Starbucks instead. And I'm like looking at the audience like, you guys didn't think it was funny? Like what? And then I go and listen back and I heard myself say Starbucks, and I was like, yeah, no wonder they didn't laugh at you, man.
No wonder.
That's funny right there. That is a funny right there.
It was real. That really happened.
Because it really happened. That's it.
Real mistakes. Real mistakes are hilarious.
Oh yeah. When people fall, I can't help but laugh.
Oh yeah. Falling is hilarious.
So I broke my foot a few years ago, and that was the first thing I did. I laughed, and I laughed. People then they didn't take me serious. So when I was like, okay, my foot is broken, let's go. They were like, you're joking, right? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm done with the joke. Let's go.
Like, we're having a great time here.
Oh my God.
That's what's so beautiful about comedy, is that it's tragedy. Like comedy is tragedy. And like so many people, they and we laugh at it because usually sometimes like if it's not you, you know what I mean? But I'm nowadays I'm the same way. Like if there's things that are completely unbelievable, that are horrible, like I laugh. It's like some of my favorite,
especially nowadays.
Yeah, like it's just like, if you like, my favorite thing in the world is, to ease the tension with laughter. So it's like if I'm watching like a scary movie and stuff like that, and there's comedy, like there's relief in it, I love it so much, because you got to have a little bit of that. Like going to like not scary farms and stuff like that. Like I love, like I laugh every time. Like, when they jump out and scare you, it's like I start laughing because I'm like, you got me. Oh, that was fun.
I don't think Kisa feels the same way.
No. We actually had this exact conversation about Halloween on one of our episodes of the podcast, because I hate scary things. So let's shift to stuff that you like to do outside of comedy. So like, what are some of your favorite things to like keep yourself like inspired and grounded? Like you said, you mentioned that you really like being active. Is that something that you draw inspiration off of?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I grew up being an athlete my whole life, and I grew up playing hockey. And so my favorite thing to do in the world is to go watch hockey. Like I love it so much. The Anaheim Ducks, go to the Honda Center. I miss it so much. And I like, one of my favorite things is to try to get on the Jumbotron. Like that is, ever since I was a little kid, I've always been like obsessed with doing that. And I've been hiking a lot recently, and that's, like one of the best things ever, is to get outside and enjoy a little nature. But probably my biggest hobby that I love more than anything, especially when it comes to inspiration, is reading. I love reading every single day, like for hours if I can. And that's the best, because it's, it's the best sober escape, I always like to say, and you need your imagination to paint the picture that the author is writing and stuff like that. And so I love it more than anything.
Mikey, you've got an interesting personality. When it comes to astrology, like signs, I'm a Scorpio. Kisa is a Leo, and Renee is an Aries, right? Yeah. Okay. An Aries. Mikey, what is your sign?
Oh, I'm a Libra.
Oh.
Viva la Libras. Yeah, Libra is the only astrological sign without a heartbeat. Every other sign is living. Libras is an object. It's a scales. So,
so how do you embrace that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was like, wow, it's heartless. So I better make sure I have heart, and I show more love and affection in the world because I don't want to be, you know. But then again, it's like one of the biggest faults because it's indecisiveness, you know, because you're always weighing out the options and stuff like that. So I've always been big on like just make a decision. But it's so hard because I love to, you know, put myself in other people's positions, like feel for other people and stuff like that. And it just only comes naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I never really thought of Libras that way, but it makes sense. And I see why you strive for finding the heart in things, but it's that balance as well. My sister's a Libra, and I see that a lot in her too. So it's fun. You're also very creative as Libras. So once you find your art, the way that you choose to express yourself, it becomes everything. And it's
it's so fun because I mean you know, like I come from like my dad's a huge workaholic. My mom likes to work a lot too as well. So I love being like immersed in my art and being all about it. Like I don't mind it being my lifestyle, you know, where, you know, some people are like, oh, you don't want to take your work home, but you don't want to be all caught up. But it's so entertaining to me. And I really like putting all my effort into it. And then of course, you know, there's, you know, you'll need, you know, escapes once in a while. You'll need like relief from that. And, you know, and when you are so dedicated to me, that's where it's like you can be able to enjoy, you know, finding a little relief outside of that, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that stuff's important. Like for dating wise, like for comedians, you know, it's really hard to meet normal people because, you know, they kind of don't get the lifestyle and stuff like that, you know? So, you know, comics will date other comedians because they understand. And sometimes that's a little dangerous because it's, you know, it's not your escape from it. You know what I mean? So, so I like, for me, like, I try to like want to meet girls who are not into comedy and stuff like that, but it's hard because I'm so attracted to funny women.
Mikey, you know, gosh, you've had quite the journey, and you still have, you know, another adventure to seek out after quarantine ends with your comedy career. For those who, you know, are looking into being a stand-up comedian, like what can you share? What words of wisdom would you have for those in the comedy world, or even just in life, entertainment, whatever? I don't care. What words of wisdom do you have?
Well, the biggest one, no matter what, is have fun. Like, don't do anything, you know, if you're not going to have fun. You got to really enjoy the certain amount of time you have on this planet. You know, the heart is a clock. So I always say too, like the world is like a typewriter. You know, the Earth is the paper, time is the ribbon, and you are the key. So whatever, like, you know, stamp you put on, you know, time on Earth is really important. So you got to have as much as fun. And to get into entertainment, you know, just, you know, enjoy yourself, write as much as you possibly can if you're going to, you know, create, and go do it. Like, stop talking about it, you know, like, I always say, stop talking, start walking, because, you know, you can always, you know, oh, I always want to do this, I always want to do that. But I guarantee you, you will be more fulfilled if you go and give it a shot, you know, and just be ready to fail. But at the same time, like, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail, because you're going to fail. And if you can pick yourself up from failure, you're going to have a really good time.
And with that, we end.
Well said, Mikey.
It's like, is that the head, like, instead of microphone drop, you're like, that's the headphone drop.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mikey. It was great having you be a part of our show. You're one of our first stand-up comedians on here, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful to come here and talk and share any kind of wisdom and laughs that we can have, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mikey. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. Good luck out there and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Mikey, for joining us. And for our WtFun followers, if you'd like to follow Mikey, you can follow him on Instagram at Mikey McKernan, or check out his website at www.MikeyMcKernan.com. Oh, geez, ladies, since going back to work and all, my closet is just, it's like a tornado blew in there, and it's so disheveled. It's a mess. It's a mess. I feel so clustered right now.
Have you checked out Coordinating My Chaos?
What? Who?
Look at me. You should. In fact, Coordinating My Chaos specializes not only in organizing spaces like your closet, pantry, garage, but also monumental tasks like organizing your documents in an easy and convenient way. Sign up today for a free 15-minute project consultation by going to their website, www.coordinatingmychaos.com, or start following them on Instagram at coordinatingmychaos. You can also go onto our website, www.wikikiproductions.com, for more information.
And if you didn't catch all of that, just remember Coordinating My Chaos, bringing order to your extraordinary world. And please make sure you are subscribed to all of our podcast platforms so you can stay up to date with all of our latest shenanigans. We post new episodes of WtFun podcast every other Friday. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.